Today, Moderna announced it was applying for FDA authorization, emergency use authorization. It published a new and wider set of data on its vaccine, and the results showed 100% of people who received the vaccine avoided a severe case of the disease, even those who caught it. The results come from the clinical trials. You'll be aware that's the first step in a push to get a vaccine safely to market. After step one, a vaccine is usually made by testing it on volunteers. The results of test one decide whether to move on. Pfizer and Moderna both reported very high levels of efficacy, so they're using that data to apply for emergency use authorization. Usually, you'd wait for that to start manufacturing doses, but there's no time for that at the moment. So, with government support and government seed money and help and research, all the manufacturers have been producing at scale for some time now. It will save precious time ahead of the looming hurdle, which is the distribution and the logistics, which, of course, are mind-bogglingly different and difficult in different parts of the world. Giovanni Caforio is the CEO of Bristol Myers Squibb. The company's blood thinner is being used to treat COVID-19 patients. He joins me. Good to see you, sir. Thank you. You don't have a vaccine per se in the race here, but I guess when you look at the way in which these vaccines are being pushed forward, do you you're happy with the way things are going?
Thank you, Richard, and thanks for having me. Well, I'm a believer in science, and so I was always optimistic that science would help us address the challenges with COVID. If you think about the last 6 months, the progress that has been made is just extraordinary, and we have seen very promising results from a number of vaccines. So I'm really optimistic that we will continue to make rapid progress and vaccines will be available to the people that need it. I think it's a really good example of the power of collaboration between different companies in the industry, regulators, and governments around the world, and our ability to speed innovation in a way that is absolutely unprecedented.
I mean, do you think, look, the Chinese have been out there already with their vaccine. The Russians have been, with Sputnik, have been vaccinating for some time now. Are you comfortable with these other countries' vaccines and what you believe is the safety standards and the efficacies of those other vaccines?
Well, let me say, from my perspective, what I know is that companies are working very fast. At the same time, they are working with regulators, and there is a very clear focus on safety at the same time as we look for efficacy. Right. So the FDA and the European regulators approve new vaccines, I'm comfortable they will have gone through the right development process.
And what about your own company, the various medications, the blood thinners and the likes? Because one of the crucial parts, I know having had COVID, is these clots, these blood clots, which simply riddle the body. And if we talk about the long haulers, of which I was one to a lesser extent, but the ability to have blood thinning and anticoagulant medications is crucial. That's where you come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're a leading company in cardiovascular medicine. Eliquis is the product that is used most commonly around the world to prevent stroke in patients with a condition called atrial fibrillation. But we did learn soon after COVID started impacting many patients that stroke and the risk of stroke was one of the key concerns. And so we are doing clinical trials with our anticoagulant Eliquis to investigate the role it has in preventing those very, very serious events. And it's an example of how we're leveraging our science and innovation to assist in this area.
Forgive the simplicity of the way I'm going to put this, but you'll know what I mean. When something like COVID comes along, do you send an all-staff email saying, hey, everybody, look at everything you've researched, everything we've worked on, everything that's worked or hasn't worked. I want you to all have another look to see if we can find it if it's useful for COVID.
Well, BMS is a science-based company. We believe in innovation. So at the beginning of the year, we did that. We, in fact, identified 1,000 compounds in our discovery library, and we made them available to researchers around the world. We looked at existing medicines like Eliquis and Orencia and initiated clinical trials to look at the potential use. And importantly, our focus was always on advancing the important research that we are doing to treat cancer and other diseases, because we didn't want to stop that either.
Do you fear that, you know, for the long haul, we know COVID is with us. It will, like the flu, morph into 2021's version, 2022's version, 2023's version, and you're going to be looking at a repeated vaccination plan forevermore?
Well, I think what we've learned this year is that we can move at incredible speed. And so now the focus going forward is preventing future pandemics and continuing to address those challenges. But at the same time, as I think about our priorities, what I'm thinking about is how can we use what we have learned this year to accelerate the search for therapies for cancer, for cardiovascular disease, other diseases. As a leading company in innovation, research and development, that's what we at Bristol Myers Squibb are doing.
How far do you think that's been put back? Because one of the big concerns in the healthcare networks, of course, is that patients suffering from these other dreadful diseases either haven't been able to get treatment or their treatment has been delayed. Do you think we will quickly be able to get back to a regimen of treating all these other diseases?
Well, absolutely. And in fact, our focus from the very first day was to continue to serve patients that are using our medicines. So we use technology to continue to distribute medicines globally, and we're able to serve every patient. We're also concerned with clinical trials, and we were able to continue to enroll patients in clinical trials and advance our science. We received approval for 4 new medicines this year during the pandemic because we were able to continue to advance all of our programs. What we are seeing in clinical practice today is that many hospitals and institutions around the world are actually seeing patients again, and we've seen over time a normalization of those trends. That's particularly important for a company like ours because of our medicines, because of the launch of new treatments and our desire to continue to advance what's an extraordinarily exciting pipeline at Bristol Myers Squibb.
Giovanni, it is good to have you on the program. Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. Thank you.